Wherever you may be listening, however you may be listening, thank you so much for tuning in to another edition of the Cardinals on SI podcast. For Richie Bradshaw, I am Don Andrew coming to you live from Cinco de Mayo. Happy Monday, everybody. Richie, it's been a minute since we hopped on a live stream, hopped on a podcast in general, my man. Free agency is coming on. The NFL draft is coming on. We're going to get into some mailbag questions we had gotten on Twitter previously, but before we get into the nitty gritty, follow Richie on Twitter at Richie Brads36. Follow me on Twitter at Donnie Drew and Richie. It's a wonderful Monday, brother. How are you?
It is a wonderful Monday, and I'd be even better if my screen was working, but that's what we have technology for. So I am tuning in via the StreamYard app, but I'm just happy to be back, Donnie. You know me. I love hearing the sound of my own voice, and I love talking to you. It works out perfectly.
I'm glad you said it, not me. Nah, for those who don't know, Richie got a computer over the weekend, a brand new one. Very, very exciting. So we're still working through all of that. So hopefully by next week, Richie will be back into full force, my man. But
If I'm
speaking
not
of
back
being
at the end
back
of the day, I'm
in,
gonna be pissed.
oh yeah, hopefully, because you host the Sun Devils podcast too, don't you?
I sure do, and the Locked On Sun Devils fans are getting restless with your boy, and I said, "That's on me, man." We'll be back, baby.
My
Better than
man,
ever.
we will be back better than ever. And some of the Arizona Cardinals, too, after a pretty good free agency session, followed up by a pretty good, strong 2025 NFL draft class. Brian already in the comments coming at Richie for his shirt. Does that count as one shirt for Richie with
Do
seven
you
stitched
do you
together?
realize I wore this on purpose, Brian?
Oh, for sure.
Because it's been so
For
long,
sure.
I was like, "There's no other shirt that I can wear." Brian, what's going on, man? Good to see you in here.
Good to see you. Happy lunchtime, everybody. And like I said a little bit ago, happy Cinco de Mayo for all of the people
Hey!
out there. All right, let's not do that.
That's me after a handful of shots, and I'm very, very excited.
That to me is just excited, sober, very, very
That
sober.
is true. I have been around you sober.
Unfortunately, right?
It's a
But
vibe.
we are here to answer some mailbag questions. We got put it out on Twitter a little bit ago, and a little bit, but probably 10 days, something like that.
Oh,
Um,
Kyler, I need to see more of that this year.
I've come to accept the Carson Palmer comparisons. Did you see that, Richie,
Oh,
on
the
social media?
Carson. I'm crazy. I don't see it.
I put it on my Instagram, and like 80% of the people were like, "Yeah, you look like Carson Palmer, big dog," and I'm like,
Dude, I saw that you had a tweet. It was something along the lines of I've accepted the allegations.
"I can't
So
fight him."
I I don't know what to tell you. You stole Alec Clancy's hat. Well, you're rocking it way better than Clancy could ever
I love
dream
Clancy.
of doing.
Clancy's a dog, man. Shout out to
He
him.
is one of the podcast hosts of all time.
I love hopping
We're
on Locked On
live. We
Cardinals,
can't cut
man.
this.
All right, the first question from Desert Sports: do you see the team looking to add anything more on the offensive side of the ball in free agency now that the draft is over? Possibly bringing back Hernandez or looking for another receiver option. You always hear the two waves of free agency, Richie. There's the pre-draft wave, and then there's the post-draft wave of free agency. Um, the
Starting
Cardinals,
June 3rd.
yep, the Cardinals surprisingly didn't really touch the offensive side of the ball in free agency or the draft.
Or the draft.
Left pretty much all of their starters untouched heading into 2025, for better for worse. We're going to get into that here in a little bit. Um, do we see them adding anything more? I wouldn't be shocked if they took a look at a receiver, but my thing with adding another guy in the whiteout room is it has to be something different than you have right now. And the only thing they're kind of quote unquote missing is that deep threat, that speedster, that burner, the guy who can with speed alone take the top off of a defense. There's not a whole lot of guys in free agency who can necessarily do that. I think Nelson Aguilar was an option that you have been kind of toting the rock for, right?
I sure have. Yep. And I know that's not a popular name with a lot of casual NFL fans because he is so well known for his drops, and they're still there. I mean, don't get me wrong, but as a resident Baltimore Ravens fan who had Nelson Aguilar on his team the last 2 years, I think that there's more that he provides than what people think about. Like you think about the bad with him, but he is a very quality receiver. He still is someone that can stretch the field out, and he brings a lot of veteran abilities to a wide receiver room. Like I still like Aguilar, and he's what is it? Pennies on the dollar, right? Yeah. So I would totally be good for that. The other thing that I look at is, like you said, you've waited so long at this point that I don't really know what's out there when it comes to um, receivers that are on the free agency market. And if there's anything out there, I mean, are you even going to find something relative to helping out your room at this point? Because anyone who's been reading my content knows that I believe you need to have speed in this receiving room, and I don't think there is any right now, Donnie. Not on this team, and I don't see anything in free agency.
Right, and it's not that the guys in the room right now have, like, cinder block feet, like, they're
Nope.
Marv can
Yep.
move, Greg Dortch is very, very twitchy. There's no guy who is just a guy who can.
A deep threat.
Right, right, if for lack of a better term. Switching over to the offensive line, though, I would love to see Will Hernandez back. Would love to. If I recall seeing something to where he should be ready by the start of the year, and if that's accurate, I say absolutely bring him back for another year, even if it's a 1 year deal. You have 28 million in effective cap space. You should be good to play ball. You really, really should. Whether or not the Cardinals really like Isaiah Adams at right guard, because he did start a couple games for them last year, we'll see. But I think the better you can make that offensive line, especially since you really didn't touch any of the skill positions, the more you're going to set yourself up for success moving to 2025.
I have been saying that this needs to be an all or nothing year for the Cardinals because of the expectations that you raised for yourself when you won so many games last year. And I'm all for it. I think that what the Cardinals managed to do last year was phenomenal. But in doing that, you went from year three rebuild to, hey, we gotta make a serious push for the playoffs. So looking at right guard, which is, in my opinion, undeniably the biggest hole on this roster right now, there is no solution that is any amount of significant playing time in the pros. Will Hernandez gives that to you, even though he's coming off an injury, and he has ended on injury reserve 2 of his 3 seasons with the Cardinals. Like, I understand there are injury concerns there, but if you're trying to win right now, then Hernandez is the guy. He knows the team, he knows the system, he is familiar with Kyler Murray and his tendencies. He's intimately familiar with the way that James Conner runs the football. They have a lot of good things going, I suppose. I can't think of the way I actually want to word it, but that to me is a move that should have already been made. But
Mhm.
this is also a Will Hernandez fan podcast because me and you have talked very highly about him several times. So there is a little bit of bias when we talk about Will Hernandez. But if you're trying to win right now, you need to bring him back because, sure, Isaiah Adams could be the future. Hayden Connor, I think
Yep.
he needs some time to get seasoned and everything. But if you're trying to win now, then you need to surround your offensive line with your best starting five. Hernandez is your best starting five because he knows the team.
I would agree, and I really like the point of trying to win now because I think we saw the team narrowly miss the playoffs at the end of 2024. They go out and they spend money on guys like Josh Sweat, Calais Campbell, Dalvin Tomlinson in free agency, and you kind of put yourself in that position to where it's like, okay, year three, almost made the postseason last year. Now's the time. Put your foot on the gas, go get some guys. Now the expectation is the postseason. It's not, well,
Right.
they can maybe surprise. No, no, it's we're getting to playoff or bust territory the deeper we get into the Cannon and Austin for era. Um, so yeah, George Pickens. I think that was just internet rumors. I don't think there's any substance to that. Um, Especially considering the kind of guy Pickens is. Um,
Do you want to add that to your locker room right now? Like, as good of a player as he is, there's inherent risk with adding someone with the character concerns. And it is on field, it's not off field. To my knowledge, Pickens isn't doing anything that he
right.
shouldn't do off the field, but it's very much a, hey man, please stop getting in fights with people. The rep is over. You don't need to continue doing your blocking and stuff like that. And he does bark a lot and everything. And it goes from you're a passionate player to you are a headache of a player. And he's
Yep.
teetering on the ladder right now.
And that's just something Jonathan Gannon and company are not going to tolerate in the desert, man. It's just now when you look at
No,
like
and I
playing
love that.
ability, when you look at playing ability, Pickens, I think, would solve some of their issues. I mean, he's a guy who you could throw it anywhere 20, 30 yards downfield, and he'll come down with it somehow. He's an absolute freak of nature when it comes to getting
He
down
is.
with the football, but does it outweigh the whole locker room headache? Probably not.
Hear me out.
Um,
He is Alshon Jeffrey. Much
okay,
faster than you think.
okay.
Insane body control and a catch radius that extends the entire county that he's in. Cardinalson, what's going on, brother? Good to see you, man. Good to
Congrats
see
on being
you.
off work, by the way, too, man. That's sick. Monday at
Yes.
1 o'clock.
Yeah.
Hell, I love that.
I do
I
too.
love that.
It's
And
that blue
Dan L
collar
hopping in
life.
comments. Cardinals need to address offensive line before a receiver. I would agree.
I
I would
100%
absolutely
would
agree
agree.
because
Yep.
if you can't keep the run game going, if you can't keep Kyler Murray upright, doesn't matter if you have me or Calvin Johnson at a receiver. It's just not
Dan
going to
knows
work.
ball.
Dan
Ask the
does no
Bengals.
ball. Congrats, Dan.
Ask the Bengals, man. You gotta have protection for your quarterback.
Shout out to Eric asking the question: can you predict who the Cardinals keep active on the defensive line to start the season? So I did do a little bit of research prior to this. Hopped on Our Lads, and then also looked at the number of guys they kept last. They kept 6 defensive linemen last year, Richie. Currently, they have Calais Campbell, Dalvin Tomlinson, Darius Robinson, Walter Nolan III, Bilal Nichols, Justin Jones, LJ Collier, and Dante Stills, who I think all 8 could realistically make the active roster and the final 53-man cut down.
Yes.
They're not going to keep 8. I don't think they keep 8. You can convince me they'll keep 7, but you have to kind of just draw another guy out from another room to make that happen. If
Dude,
I'm
it's such a
looking,
big investment.
it is. So to me, guys like Tomlinson, Campbell, big free agent signings, you're not going to get rid of them. Darius Robinson, Walter Nolan III, fresh
They're
faces you're
safe.
banking on for the future, they're safe. So if we're going to 7, extending the number by 1 last year, that leaves 3 more guys.
Dante's not going.
Yep, Dante Stills. I think he stays. So
He's
really,
been too good.
2 spots left, and 3 players come to mind. Bilal Nichols, Justin Jones, and LJ Collier. All 3 of them veteran guys. All 3 of them also struggle with injury.
They re-signed Collier though, so you
They
have
did.
1 spot.
They did. So the
Great
cap
move, by the way.
figures.
I love him. I love
Yeah,
him for this team.
I tried so hard to get LJ Collier to do the Carlton sack dance towards the tail end of the year because he's a big anime guy. We chopped it up all the time in the locker room. Big anime guy. He did like the Dragon Ball celebration one time, and then he did a Naruto one too. I forgot what it was, but I was like, "Hey man, like you gotta get the Carlton going." He's like, "Nah, I'm gonna stick with
He's like, what anime is that from?
yeah." So like
It's
I
one
do
from the
really
80s.
like LJ. When you look at the post June 1st cap hits for cutting these guys or cap savings more so, you're saving just literal thousands of dollars by cutting
Right.
Jones and Nichols. And then whenever it comes to Collier, you're saving like $1 million. And not that money should be a factor in anything that you're doing because the Cardinals do have plenty of cap space. They're not looking to make anything stretch by any sense in the imagination. But I mean, that
Remind them
could
of
be
that
notable.
when the Jalen Thompson conversations continue, which they need to stop.
I think they stopped. Period, man. I really
Good,
do.
because I was never a fan of that. But moving on.
So it's a good problem to have. There's a lot of really talented guys in the room, and who knows, man? Like maybe there's an injury in training camp, and then that kind of makes this decision a little bit easier. To me, if you're asking me to automate out at this point in time, it's got to be like Bilal Nichols or Justin Jones. I would rather keep Collier as another defensive end than the 2 kind of defensive tackle tweeners like Nichols and
Yeah,
Jones.
because you can move Collier around because I think people forget, first of all, he was drafted by the Seahawks, which is that much better that he's found a niche with the Cardinals, but
Mhm.
he can move around the front. You can put him at 5, you can put him 3. You could probably put him over center in certain packages, but that's something that no. I'm just saying if you're trying
If
to
you
get a
needed
guy that
to.
you can move around, Collier moves around. Nichols and Jones, I'm not saying they're bad players, but they do not have that versatility to move around the lineup the way that Collier does. And again, they extended him. He's safe. It's between one of those two guys. And you're not keeping both. If they keep both, that would surprise me. But, having that depth on the defensive line is not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah. No,
especially for a team like this.
Couldn't agree more. Shout out to Eric for the question. Thank you. Mondo or Mando. I'm pretty sure it's Mondo, but you never really know. Which day 3 rookie do you think has the best chance to not only make the team, but carve out a role for themselves? I think, and this is no disrespect to anybody, I think it's a really easy answer, and it's Cody Simon. I think Cody Simon, the 4th round pick, Ohio State linebacker. The Cardinals lost Kaiser White in free agency. They brought in Akeem Davis-Gaither and then Michael Walker. Doesn't scream, hey, starter opposite of Mac Wilson for me. I think Simon probably has the best chance to play the most significant snaps in 2025, mostly due to the position of need. And he was a really good ball player. Like defensive MVP for them in the national championship game, right?
Yep. So, I mean, he was phenomenal, man. I'm a big Cody Simon guy. So, unfortunately, you're 100% right. Like, I knew who my answer was, and then you reminded me that Cody Simon was a day 3 player, and I'm like, yep, that's the guy. But I do want to throw out your 7th round pick, Crawford. Has my attention. Has my full attention. That's a guy who is going to be a special teams ace. Mark my words. He is...
Okay.
He's really quick. So he had some fantastic track times when he was playing high school and everything like that. And he did track, cross country, football, all that good stuff. He's really, really quick. And you saw that when he was playing in college. And the best way for you to find a spot in the pros, Donnie, as we all know, find a spot with special teams.
Mm-hmm.
Crawford having the speed that he has will make him a perfect gunner. That punt, they're going to put that up. If they can find a way to have that hanging up in the air, Crawford's going to be there immediately. You are going to limit any opportunities for a guy to return punts this year. He's going to be terrific. He finds a role there, we move forward. But, if you're a fan of time being a flat circle, right? Do you see what his jersey number is?
36. Right.
36. Obviously, first of all, that's my number. Second of all, do you know, albeit he was a 2nd round pick, who started his career wearing number 36 as a special teams player to go on to be an ace for this team?
I'm going to switch the initials around so they don't know exactly what I'm talking about. Buda Baker. Started
his career as 36. That's very easy to forget because it was his rookie year. He was a special teams ace, and now he's one of the best safeties in football. And I'm not saying that's the trajectory here for Crawford, is to go from 7th round pick to one of the best safeties in football. But I do love that the aesthetic is there for him to potentially follow the footsteps of going from special teams to finding a niche role with the roster. I also just really, really think that Crawford is perfect. Dan gets it. Dan is right there
knows
with
ball.
me. Dan knows ball for the second time. It comes in threes, Dan. So let's see if you got a third take for me. But yeah, I am big on Crawford to become a special teams ace for this team. I'll put it out there. I'll put it into the ether. Pro Bowler as a special teams player.
I don't think anybody could complain with that.
As a Cardinal fan, yeah, so. For sure. 31 other teams are going to be like, oh, 7th round pick. And I'm going to say, yeah, I'll put it in the ether.
We'll see. I would be not surprised if he makes the roster, but if he does make the roster, that's absolutely how he's going to make it, just with a crowded secondary. Brian, if Simon plays, does he wear the green dot? Because that's a really good question. He did call the defense for Ohio State last season, so he does have that experience, which I think Arizona really did like. Their green dot wear the last 2 years, Kaiser White gone. They were asked after day 3, they as in like Dave Sears and Monty Austin Fort, like kind of what the plan was with the green dot. They said they're not really married to one idea. It could bounce between a couple of different guys. Ideally, you want like a interior linebacker calling it, just so it's easier to relate to the different levels of the defense. With that thinking, like maybe Mac Wilson takes on that role.
I'd say him or Akeem. Those would be
Yeah.
my two choices.
So I'm not too familiar with Akeem and his Green Dot experience. I might have to dig that up a little bit more after this, but
I don't know that he has much. I just know he's played a lot of football. He's also a good special teamer. So he's got a lot of experience. And I think he might be the most comfortable, true middle backer on the team because Mac just goes everywhere. And it's not a disrespect to Mac. I just think that if you're looking for guys that are specifically for that role, probably Akeem. But Brian, to answer your question for Simon, not going to be his rookie year. I don't know if it's his second year, but I could see him inherit that role because he's such a smart, dedicated football player. Played 5 years at Ohio State, wasn't on the field a ton. He was able to find a really good rotational role, but the transfer portal is a huge thing. He could have left at any point in time to go to a number of different programs where he would have started and would have wore the green dot. But, you know, this is a dedicated player. So I do think he will have that eventually. It's not going to be as a rookie.
I would agree. Just rookie year, just a little bit too much on the play, and that's not a diss towards Simon or anybody. It's just that,
No,
like
dude,
you're
he's
still
great.
you're still finding your feet as a rookie with all of that. So
Big fan, big fan.
Jonathan asked, "Are you concerned for the offense after a defensive focused draft?" I'm not sure. Concerned would be the word I would use to describe it. Curious for sure because you're really banking on continuity, man. You're really banking on those guys getting their stuff together. Not concerned, but like I'm just so curious to see what changes because it's either got to be Drew Petzing making a massive change in order to get the ship going in the right direction, or it's going to be a Kyler Murray change that's going to get things going in the right direction because they're still going to run the ball a lot. Their weapons really haven't changed at all. Not really haven't. The offensive line arguably right now is worse than what it was day one last year. I don't know.
Why do you say that?
I mean, like, there's not a healthy Jonah Williams. There's not a healthy Will Hernandez at right guard.
I prefer Beacham anyways, honestly.
That's fair. I will say, like, Beacham filled in fairly well last year, right tackle, but he's another year older. Dude almost retired this offseason.
Right. For me, it's right guard, man, because otherwise, Froholt is back at center. Evan Brown, I thought that was a really good re-signing, by the way. Back at left guard. Paris Johnson is healthy and playing at a Pro Bowl level. I know that Jonah's not healthy, which, you know,
he's expected to be healthy by the
sky is blue. Right. But I still like Beacham. It's really just right guard. Otherwise, I think a unit is fine. I don't think I can agree with you. It's worse than what you had last year. I don't think it's that significantly worse. I want to add to your point where you're going to have to rely on the run game. Kyler said he wants to run more this year. And I think that if he dedicates himself to that, and if Drew Petzing incorporates it for him, I want to see read options. I want to see some quarterback designed running plays and stuff like that. I think that will help open up the offense more this year because Kyler is a fine passer. He's decently accurate. He can make big plays, but we have seen plenty of limitations at this point in time, and he's going into year 7, so we know what he is. But we have not seen him be a dynamic runner in a few years because he's been so dedicated to passing, and, you know, props to that. But I think that Kyler's best season in the pros was 2020 when he ran for 11 touchdowns on the ground. And I would love to see that Kyler Murray return because he is such a dynamic runner. And you're also matching him with a running back he has not played with as a dynamic runner with James Conner. That's thunder and lightning. That's thunder and lightning. That is Walmart brand Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson.
I knew exactly where you're going with that too.
Tell me I'm wrong. A big power back who will knock you over and put you on your ASS, and then a lightning quick quarterback who can make you look stupid in space. That is Walmart brand, maybe Winco brand, but the Cardinals can still make it work, and they can really make it work. I think it'd be a great decision. Thoughts?
No, you're right. You're right. We haven't seen too much of Kyler being a dedicated runner at the next level. I
Yep,
do
we
think a,
need
a
it.
lot of Kyler's magic has come just from using his legs, breaking down passing plays.
Yeah, that, like
I did think the few quarterback keepers Kyler did have last year were pretty effective. Just because with James Conner
how many
wearing
big
out a
runs did he
defense
have?
over the course, I would
He
have
had a
to
big
look.
50-yard runner, a
Yeah,
50
he
yard
had a
run.
handful.
It wasn't against Detroit. I can't remember who it was, but he
I think
takes
he had a
off to the
huge
far
run
left
against Miami.
sideline and just, that sounds right. Dude, he's still a great runner.
Yeah,
I need
no,
him to
for
get
sure,
back to that. So,
for
because
sure.
you're right, he did become playing that Russell Wilson style of football where you're using your legs and your mobility to let plays break down rather than running. I think he is a much better runner than Russell Wilson was in his prime. And Russell Wilson
I
ran for
agree.
like 850 yards one year. So take that for what it is.
I agree. CG Sports fan says Oscar Cardenas heading to the Cardinals along with a signing bonus per his agent Robert Sheets. Will Oscar make the team? I'll be honest, man. It's going to be really tough. Trey McBride, Elijah Higgins, Tip Ryman. I mean, I don't see them keeping
Do you
four
keep a
tight ends.
fourth? Yep, exactly. And they
And
like
that's
those
tough.
three.
They
And
love
everyone should
those
like
three.
those three.
Yeah.
I think Higgins could find himself a bigger role eventually. But if the team does go run heavy this year, I don't know if it's going to be there. But I do like Higgins. He really intrigues me for this team. We all know who Trey McBride is.
Mhm.
And if they go run heavy, expect a lot of Tip Raymond to get those run blocking snaps. Could we, for fun, try him as a fullback and just kind of move him around?
I think they may have done that once or twice last year. I think they may have done that.
Try it.
Not a bad
I
idea. That dude
no, not at
loves
all.
putting people in the dirt.
That is like a classic tight end from like the 70s where like they're not so much focused on catching the football as much as they are doing that nitty gritty inside the line and then breaking off and doing their stuff.
Oh, for sure.
That's
Yeah.
what I
When
see
you
with
look
Tip
at Tip, it's
Ryman.
like a time machine, man. It's like
Yes, in the
that
best
dude
way.
knows exactly what he's here for, and it's to mow people over. It's the best thing ever
Bully
because like
ball.
that like little smile he gets on his face whenever it happens is
Yes.
wild. Absolutely wild, man.
It's like Trevor Penning if he wasn't insane. You can legally assault people. Okay, Trevor, let's
Yeah, let's
relax.
pump the brakes, Trevor.
That is national
Um,
TV. Say that in the locker room.
Shout out to Ed asking, good or bad, what surprised you the most regarding the Cardinals draft? I'll take the low hanging fruit. I'm surprised they didn't address like offense a little bit more, whether it be like an
Yes.
offensive lineman or like
Mhm.
receiver. But I will say, and this was brought up whenever I joined Locked On Cardinals, um, I think Will Johnson being available in the second round really changed things for them. Like truly,
Yes.
like I really really do because I think once you had Walter Nolan the third go in the first round, Will Johnson drops you in the second. I think from there, like maybe they were considering an offensive lineman because when that drop off from the second to the third round of like those kind of like offensive linemen, whether it be like guard or tackles, pretty significant. So I
Yes.
feel like if they wanted to take one of those guys, or maybe even like a receiver at that point too, they would have if Will Johnson was not there. But you can't not take the best corner in the draft if he's sitting to you in the second round.
No, you can't. And for the long-term concerns, right? He won't get past his rookie deal. He's destined to play 7 years or less or something like that. That would suck, absolutely. But do you think the Rams regret drafting Todd Gurley because his time was shorter? No, definitely not. Like, it sucks for sure. And we're not saying that's 100% going to happen, especially because his camp and he believes himself that that is a very overblown issue and he feels fine. Him being in the second round is absolutely disgusting because how many Cardinal fans, how many times would me and you, even though we weren't doing a podcast together for so long because life was absolutely insane for both of us, how many times would we have collectively agreed, hey, Will Johnson would be a totally good pick at 16, and then you get him in the second round?
Yep.
That that is the pick that might define this draft for the Cardinals. And everyone knows I'm a big Walter Nolan guy. That's my dude. But Will Johnson in the second round is not something anyone would have predicted, and fans would have been ecstatic if he was the pick at 16. So
Yep.
that is what turns everything around.
I'd agree. Hashtag get Gannon Schreier Micah says, I know he said it was for the sake of value, but do you see the defensive heavy approach to the offseason as a way of sending a message to Petzing or Kyler, specifically that unlike the defense, Monty feels the pieces are in place for an efficient offense? I don't think it was a good question. I don't think it was them sending a message to
Yes.
Petzinger or Kyler. I think even if they had added some pieces in free agency or the NFL draft, it was going to be a big year for Drew Petzing and a big year for Kyler Murray. I think if anything, it was just a vote of confidence.
Right.
I think at the end of the day, that's what it was. And that's something
I think
that
it's a perfect
Monty
way.
had touched on in his post day 3 draft presser, where he was like, look, like we're confident in all of the guys. And I think the actions back the words there, Richie, because I feel like they had opportunities to go get a playmaker, go get a stud offensive lineman in free agency. They
Mhm.
bypassed both for reason X, Y, or Z. They bypassed both. So
Yeah.
if anything, I don't think it was a message. It was just more so, hey, you know what? We're confident in you guys, but
That's a perfect way
both
to say it.
both of you guys also know you got to get it done this year.
Great. Yeah. No, I think that's exactly the way that you should look at it. Is it's not a message, it's a vote of confidence of like, we really like what's going on here. Because you look at the offense, there's quite a few Pro Bowlers. Kyler Murray, if he is dialed in, is a Pro Bowl level talent. James Conner's a Pro Bowl level talent. Trey McBride is an all pro level talent. Paris Johnson is a Pro Bowl level talent. Marvin Harrison Jr. is a Pro Bowl level talent. There's a lot of really good pieces across every position that the Cardinals could be able to manifest and get the most out of.
Yeah.
So it's there for them. And three of the guys would have been Pro Bowlers last year if Paris Johnson wasn't injured, because McBride was a Pro Bowler. And did James Conner make it? Was he a
I
alternate
think
by
he was left out.
chance?
I think he was left out.
Well, then that's a mistake. So
I think it was
as
just
far as I'm
Train Buddha.
concerned, Pro Bowler. Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of talent on that offense to the point where, yeah, it makes sense as a front office that you go, we should be able to get it done. We got to fix a defense that overachieved last year and has good pieces, but doesn't have those superstars. You need the guys that are going to be the key components of the defense. There's a lot of studs on that defense, but outside of Buda Baker, there's not really any guy on that defense going into the offseason that you looked at as a star for the team. Now you've got Will Johnson. Garrett Williams would be the second closest, and
Mhm.
Garrett Williams is on there. And you bring in Calais Campbell, he's going to inherit a leadership role. You have Josh Sweat and Walter Nolan. You have added guys that are going to bring that alpha mentality, and you can take a drink if you would like, because I have to do that when I am writing my articles. They need the alpha, and they got the alpha. They got the alpha at all three levels now. So
Shout out Brian for the question and also popping in the chat. Appreciate you, big dog. Top 3
big
position
dog.
groups, camp battles, and early predictions. If you're asking me to rank the top 3 position groups on the Cardinals
Right guard,
right now, I would
number one is right
probably
guard.
say what?
Right guard is number one, and that's not a debate. There's no consensus there.
I'd put
None.
in terms of need, right guard would be number 1.
Receiver 3.
If we're aiming long term, right tackle number 2, and then receiver
Yeah.
number 3 for me. You could flip 2 and 3, and I'll hear arguments for both. But
What about corner 2? Sean Murphy Bunting's corner 1. Max Melton played really good last year. You draft Will Johnson in the second round. Starling Thomas is still a very quality player.
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
think
that-
corner 2 for the boundary is another really good battle to watch out for, because Melton played good, but you drafted Will Johnson to become the number 1. And until further notice, Sean Murphy Bunting is number 1, right, wrong, or indifferent. He is a quality
just because he's the
player,
vet.
and he's the vet. Exactly. He is a quality player. So he's 1 until further notice.
Camp battle I'm most interested in seeing is really the depth along the defensive line for both like the interior and
Big
like edge
time.
rusher,
Yes.
because we know the starters, guys like Josh Sweat, Calais Campbell, Dalvin Thompson. Like we know those guys are going to start. I'm really intrigued to see the guys behind them. Really, like I want to see what BJ Ojulari looks like. I want to see how Zaven responds to Josh Sweat being brought into the team. I want to see Xavier Thomas take that step from year 1 to year 2, and then
Baron
along the
Browning
defensive
in a
line,
full
like
role or a
yep,
full
yep,
off
Baron
season
Browning
for
after
Baron
being
Browning.
paid.
I'm excited about him, by the way. I'm very
Yep.
excited
So
about Baron Browning.
then you look at the defensive line, like Darius Robinson. Like, what are we going to see out of him in year 2? Can guys like Bilal and Jones bounce back from being
They're
injured pretty
fighting for
much
their
the
job.
entire year? Yep. There's these are good problems to have. There's going to be a lot of depth battles on the defensive line, both interior and at edge. Those are what I'm looking for. But I think probably the top camp battle right now is going to be at right guard until something changes.
Yep. And keep an eye out on this, talking about the defensive line. So many teams, including the Cardinals, run nickel packages now. It's not 3-4s and 4-3s and stuff like that. And what the Cardinals have done in the offseason tells me that they're going to run 5 defensive backs and 4 linebackers, 2 edge rushers, 2 middle linebackers. That's 2 defensive linemen. That matters a lot.
Yeah, and then I do want to piggyback on that because even when the Cardinals are on base, they rotate their guys a lot. So guy number 1 and guy
In the
number
best
6
way.
or 7 on the depth chart,
Mm-hmm.
they're gonna play. Like those guys top to bottom on the defensive line are going to play. And I
That's how
really like the
Dante got
point.
his role.
Yep.
And
Yep.
now look at what Dante has become.
Brian brings up a good point here because the front 7 camp battles day to day are going to be crazy, and that's exactly what you want. That is
Yes.
precisely what you want out of the camp battles. Good on good, iron sharpens iron. You want hungry dogs, you're going to get hungry dogs day after day
Yep.
in training camp.
Yep. Monday, you will have, just an example. Monday is going to be your team 1, Dalvin Tomlinson and Calais Campbell. Day 2 is going to be Calais Campbell and Darius Robinson. Day 3 is going to be Dante Stills and Walter Nolan. Day 4 is going to be Bilal Nichols and Dalvin Tomlinson. You're going to rotate that consistently, and you should do it on a near day-to-day basis. You should do it at least once or twice per week as you're doing your training camp. Shuffle the guys around because
They're for
there
sure.
is 8 players, Donnie, that are fighting for a job right now. And if we're being honest, we know who 7 of them are. They're not guaranteed an 8th.
Yep.
So
Yep.
they're going to
Completely
have to
agree.
fight, and we could see trades and stuff like that. So, and then keep an eye out for Jordan Birch. He
We didn't
could
even
find some
talk about
time.
him. Oh wow.
He could
Wow.
find time on the defensive line. That dude is built as a 3-tech, and the Cardinals are going to have a lot of fun with him, moving him around the lineup. So that was a pick I wasn't high on at the time. And as I'm thinking about it more, I'm like, that is a Cardinal player. That is a Cardinal player.
Dude,
Still
we
should have
didn't
been
talk
Jack
about
Sawyer,
him.
but yes.
We didn't talk about him. Wow. Okay.
Boy,
At
we
Cardinals
talked
New
about a
Era
lot.
asked, I know, it was just yapaholics here. Do you think Arizona signs any more free agents? We kind of touched on that a little bit earlier.
I don't know.
If it's anybody, it would be re-signing Will Hernandez. I don't see them making an outside splash.
No. Certainly not
I
a
think they're
splash.
really, yeah. I think they're pretty comfortable with how the roster looks right now. So
I don't know if we're going to see very many changes at all, because I don't think there's anyone on the trade market that is blowing anyone away. And I also don't think the Cardinals are going to look and go, we got to make a trade. We have to find someone to make a trade. Like, I think the Cardinals are content with this roster. And I am too. I like the roster they put together. I like the upgrades that they brought in for positions that needed upgrades. This is a team that won 8 games last year. I think 8 wins is the floor for this team. At least the
agree.
expectation should be 7 to 8 wins. Donnie, this time last year, what did we say? 5 wins, 6 wins would be
We
ideal.
said
7 would
6.
be a big, yeah. So, I mean, they are significantly moving that mark forward, and that's a great thing. That is not a bad thing at all. So, but I do think that the roster did make the right moves this offseason. So it's a team that they should be confident in, and we know they're confident in it. See, I don't know if we're going to see very many changes, if any changes.
Kevin, shout out to Kevin, deputy editor for the Sun site. Appreciate you, big dog.
Hey,
Is 2025 season playoffs or bust for the new regime?
you can't put that label there because they haven't made the playoffs, but
It's there.
right there.
It's right there.
I would compare it to the Sun Devils, right? one of the things that a lot of people are saying is it's Big 12 championship or bust. And it's like, we only have 2 years in the Kenny Dillingham era. And this past season was beyond exceptional. We can't put that expectation there fairly, but behind the scenes, it kind of feels that way. And that's the thing with the Cardinals. Is it fair to say playoff or bust? Well, it's we've got 2 years of Jonathan Gannon. We went from a bad season to an exceptional season, very similar trajectory, just didn't make the playoffs compared to ASU. But you kind of want to put that expectation there. You shouldn't. But behind the scenes, we're like, kinda kind of need to do that. ASU kind of needs to win the Big 12. The Cardinals kind of need to make the playoffs this year because you were right there a season
Yeah.
ago. You
I'm
raised the
not gonna
expectation.
say I'm not gonna say bust. I don't think if you missed the
That for
playoffs
sure
this
is
year,
not a bust.
I don't think you just tear everything down and blow everything up if you don't make the playoffs. But you're gonna have a lot of conversations next offseason if you're not playing postseason ball. You have
You know what?
conversations with Drew Petzing, you have conversations with Kyler Murray. Um, I'm not gonna put Austin Ford again on the hot seat if they miss the
No,
playoffs.
I'm not putting
But
Gannon on the hot seat. I don't care what happens. Donnie, they could have the number one pick. I am not putting Gannon on the hot seat. He has proven to me that he's the guy for the job. If they have a season where they are picking first overall, it is nothing to do with his coaching. You're going to be looking at injuries. You're going to be looking at guys who are not working in the coordinators' spots. And there's no problem with Nick Morales.
well,
I
Nick
am
Rose,
not
if
questioning
if this defense takes the
he's going to be
jump,
a head
everybody
coach.
seems to think, yeah,
He's going to be a
they're
head
going to be
coach.
looking for another defensive coordinator next offseason.
Yeah. So I think that Gannon has done enough in his first 2 years, barring an 0-17 season. And I would bet my entire house, my life savings, and everything like that. There's not a lot of life savings that they will not go 0-17. I need
They're
one
not.
game. That's it. They're gonna be fine. So
They'll be fine.
I really don't care what happens next season unless it's something drastic. Because the other thing to remember is Michael Bidwell is very patient. He is very patient with letting his guys work through. Like you had the one and done season from the head coach from 2018, but he was
Wilkes.
always, yes, Steve Wilkes. That was always a one and done situation. Because otherwise, Cliff had a very long leash when he
Cliff had
probably shouldn't
a
have.
very long leash. Yeah, you have to buy 10 shirts if they go 0-17
You're
this year.
asking me to to have 10 times the amount of shirts? I'm doing laundry every day, man. Are you paying my electric bill?
Ryan asks, it's great that we triple down on defense this offseason overall, but is there still a genuine concern for the O line and its depth? Do you believe Monty will still get back in the kitchen again before the season starts in that regard? So the depth does scare me. I am fine with the starters right now. Nothing about that starting five offensive line worries me. If there's an injury, though, I'm
Exactly.
kind of concerned.
There's a lot of unproven guys
Yeah.
because oh God help me out. Isaiah Adams, right?
Mhm.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So Isaiah Adams. A lot of upside. They seem to like him. If you have to throw him in and start him for 17 games, it's probably going to be rough. Like he still needs some time to marinate and get ready. If you have to throw Hayden Connor out there for 17 games, it's going to be rough. Like,
Yeah, I agree with you on Connor. Adams did start a handful of games last year, so I think that would help
yeah,
him moving into year two.
I'm
No,
not
no, no,
trying to
no.
discount him, but I do think that he needs another season of limited action to be able to get to that point because they like him a lot and the
Mhm.
upside is there. So he could be a future 17 game starter for the team. But as of right now, yeah, if you have any injuries to the offensive line, that is not ideal. If there's a position on this team that like you can't afford injuries to, it's offensive line.
I'd agree. I would agree. So the depth does worry me if Monty gets back in the kitchen again. Like we said, like Will Hernandez would love that. Dan's been reading Richie's content on SI.com/NFL/Cardinals, apparently, because Surf has been a guy that Richie's been kind of pounding the drum for. Is,
Dan
hey, you
knows
know what?
ball, and that's 3, baby.
That's 3.
Comes
Shout
in
out to
threes.
Dan.
My man. Drop your Twitter handle. I'm going to follow you, Dan.
Yep, same. Would love that. Yeah, the Sheriff would be a really good ad. If not, Will Hernandez. At Selling Savior says, when is Petzing going to be fired? Not this year.
Yes.
Not this year.
Should have been fired. But I think
I'll tell you what, we talked about playoffs or bust. We talked about that. If they don't make the postseason, I think he's gone.
I think you heavily consider it. I think if that offense in any category, any sacks given up, yards per game, passing yards, rushing yards, touchdowns, turnovers, any statistic is outside of the top 20, you have that conversation. I'm so deadly serious. I know that's a heavy ask. That's it. That's my standard. I know it's high. I'm standing by it. It's as high as Randy Gregory, man.
Jeez.
Some say he's still high to this day from the October stuff that went on in the 2015 draft cycle.
You're something.
I am one of the Cardinals cover people of all time. I would be in the bottom tier, apparently, based off of some of the stuff I have seen.
Oh, that Titanic meme?
You have heard of me.
But you've heard of me.
I am Jack Sparrow, baby. You are without a doubt the worst Cardinal coverage person I have ever heard of. But you have heard of me.
You've heard of me. We are going to get out of here. We got to put a mailbag up on YouTube next time so the nice, great YouTube people can give us a shout. But if we do a mailbag on Twitter, yep. If
please send questions.
Yep, and you can send us questions at Twitter or X, as the cool kids call it, at RichieBrads36 and then at Donnie Druin 4MB. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and we will see you guys on the flip flop.